Welcome to the deep dive. So today we are taking a massive intellectual shortcut right into one of the most complex, sometimes frustrating, and definitely intensely personal subjects we face every day.
That's the self.
That's right. We're diving deep into how we view ourselves, that whole emotional spectrum, pride, vanity, hubris, self-esteem, and we're drawing heavily from Simon Blackburn's, well, phenomenal book, You Must Be Unique.
Yeah, and our mission today, it's pretty clear. We want to navigate that really thin line between, let's say, healthy self-regard, which, you absolutely need for virtue, for resilience,
hmm
and that more destructive self-obsession that kind of slides into vanity, arrogance, and, frankly, some serious neuroses.
And this isn't just theory either. Blackburn positions his work as a modern exercise in what you might call practical anthropology. It's about understanding not only how we perceive ourselves socially, psychologically, but maybe how we should organize our inner lives, to be better people, fundamentally. And what's really fascinating, I think, is what sparked this whole investigation for him. It wasn't some, dusty old philosophical text,
No.
but a very modern advertising hook. L'Oreal's famous line, "You deserve it."
It's such a perfect cultural artifact for this discussion, isn't it? That whole idea of entitlement, and then you couple it with the backdrop of, well, modern financial greed.
Yeah.
Those blatant displays by powerful people who seem to operate under this belief that, greed is good. It signals a kind of cultural zeitgeist.
We've somehow made radical self-focus, maybe even vanity, seem not just okay, but almost necessary for success.
Exactly. We need to really dissect that cultural permission slip we've apparently given ourselves.
Okay, so let's unpack this. A good place to start seems to be the origin story of self-obsession, the myth of Narcissus. It's the classic cautionary tale, right? And I think it holds a key to understanding a lot of modern delusion.
Oh, absolutely. The story is timeless precisely because it addresses that central flaw. Confusing an illusion for reality, Narcissus, famously, was prophesied to live a long life as long as he did not know himself. But then, of course, he sees his reflection in the water, this perfect image, and he falls completely in love. He's chasing what the text calls an empty, invisible object.
And when you look at how we live today, especially online, I mean, that confusion feels absolutely rampant. We talk about the constant self-documentation, the whole selfie culture,
Yeah.
where we kind of imagine the entire social world is just hanging on the details of our breakfast or, how great we look in front of some monument. We're chasing that ideal reflection.
Exactly. And the tragedy, the real kicker, is that Narcissus just wasted away. He was trying to connect with something he literally couldn't touch. And when he finally has that realization, oh, he is me, I love myself, it's too late.
He was lost in the echo.
Precisely. He was obsessed with his own echo while completely ignoring the real voice, the real affection of the nymph echo who genuinely loved him. And the great insight there, I think, is that sometimes the voices we hear, even the ones we think are affirming us from outside, they might just be echoes of our own desires, our own self-delusions.
That distinction, self-love versus self-delusion, that's so crucial. But this then sets up a really counterintuitive idea, one I think a lot of us wrestle with. We tend to associate extreme arrogance, hubris, with supreme confidence.
Right.
But the sources, including Blackburn, suggest the opposite.
Yeah.
That hubris is actually rooted in a really fragile, vulnerable self.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is how the psychological dimension of narcissism lines up perfectly with this ancient understanding of hubris. You look at the psychological profiles, yes, there's a strong need for attention, a sense of superiority, but critically underpinning it all is this vulnerable self-esteem.
Yeah.
They're intensely sensitive to any kind of failure or critique. So hubris, in that sense, it isn't strength at all. It's more like a brittle, oversized defense mechanism. It's compensating for a core insecurity.
That makes a scary amount of sense. The louder the boast, maybe the deeper the fear of being found out as just average.
Something like that, yeah.
But how does this translate into, practical failings? Beyond just bruised feelings, what are the consequences?
Well, it manifests in dangerous overconfidence. And this extends way beyond clinical narcissism right into everyday life. We humans systematically overestimate our abilities, largely because our ego really wants to believe we're special.
And there's some pretty stark data on this, isn't there?
Oh, yeah. Quite striking. We see stats like, 95% of UK drivers think they are above average?
Which is mathematically impossible.
Exactly. And maybe even more telling, 94% of university professors think they are better than average at their jobs. It just shows you the pervasive power of this self-enhancement bias.
Okay, so if most of us operate with this slightly inflated view of ourselves, what's the actual harm? I mean, beyond maybe looking a bit silly, what's the real-world impact of that systematic overconfidence?
It leads to ignoring objective reality, specifically through something called the base rate fallacy. Think about, say, risk assessment in business, or maybe diagnosing a rare illness in medicine.
Okay.
People tend to ignore the broad, maybe less glamorous probability data that's the base rate because they're so eager to trust the immediate evidence or maybe their gut feeling, something that validates their own perceived superior skill.
Do we prefer their own special, unique insight over just boring old statistics?
That's a good way to put it, yes. And this is where the author, Blackburn, really raises the stakes. He argues that this denial of complexity, this kind of stubborn inability to accept objective uncertainty or statistical probability, because, well, it might imply risk or even mediocrity.
Yeah.
It isn't just a cognitive mistake. It's framed as a moral flaw.
Wow. Okay. That's a powerful connection. Why? Why is denying complexity considered a moral failing?
Because, essentially, it's a failure of responsibility. To ignore the objective base rates is, in a way, to prioritize your own fragile ego, your need to feel superior over the truth, and over the ethical necessity of accurately assessing risk, both for yourself and potentially for others.
So if you're a CEO, ignoring the financial base rate is irresponsible toward shareholders, employees.
Exactly. Or if you're a doctor, ignoring the statistical base rate risks misdiagnosis, which harms the patient. The flaw, the moral flaw, is prioritizing a self-affirming delusion over objective evidence and truth.
That insight that self-delusion has actual ethical consequences, that's profound. It really demands that we aim for something healthier than just, high self-esteem. So let's pivot a bit. Is there a form of healthy self-interest we should aspire to? Or is all self-focus inherently dangerous?
Oh, absolutely there is. And this is where Rousseau's framework is incredibly helpful. He drew a really sharp line between what he called healthy self-love, amour de soi, and the more destructive self-esteem, or amour propre.
Okay, let's break those down. What's the healthy kind, the amour de soi?
That's basically honest, simple self-interest. It's concerned with fundamental finite needs: food, security, basic comfort. And the key is it's relatively easy to satisfy because its requirements are internal and, well, tangible.
Got it. And the destructive kind, the vanity, the amour propre.
That is the problem that Rousseau saw poisoning modern life. It is rooted entirely, completely in comparison and social status. It's this insatiable desire to be superior to others.
It sounds like a zero-sum game.
It absolutely is. If you achieve this feeling of superiority, you live in constant fear of losing it. And if you don't achieve it, you suffer from envy, malice, this gnawing dissatisfaction. It's like being on an endless treadmill, constantly checking your social status against everyone else.
That sounds utterly exhausting. So if this comparative vanity, this amour propre, is the poison, what did Rousseau see as the cure? How do we get off that treadmill?
Sympathy, or what we might call compassion or pity. For Rousseau, the only way out of that comparative rat race is realizing that others are fundamentally just as vulnerable as we are, especially when they suffer misfortune. It requires imaginative empathy.
You have to be able to picture yourself in their shoes.
Precisely. And that imaginative leap breaks the isolation created by amour propre.
And thinking about it, that ties right back to our opening point, doesn't it? About the rich and powerful and the inequality issues we see today.
Exactly. The source suggests that the extremely wealthy and powerful often become almost incapable of sympathy because they isolate themselves so completely. They literally can lose the imaginative capacity to conceive of life without their massive advantages.
Like the example you mentioned.
Yeah, the example of a highly paid banker who genuinely cannot conceive of earning less than, say, $1 million a year. That failure of imagination isn't just quirky. It's presented as a symptom of a moral failing. They've insulated themselves so thoroughly they can't recognize a shared humanity or vulnerability anymore.
Okay, this brings us full circle, back to that L'Oreal slogan, "You deserve it." We initially talked about how it plays on vanity, but looking deeper now, maybe it actually preys on something else, a profound lack of self-worth. Maybe it preys on fear.
I think that's the core insight, really. The true, maybe subconscious message isn't just "you're great." It's closer to "you are not worthy right now." But if you acquire this product, this status symbol, this look, then you will become worthy.
Wow.
And it's this deep-seated fear of being not good enough that drives people towards extremely costly and often ultimately empty pursuits, things like unnecessary cosmetic surgery or lavish spending, all in this desperate attempt to basically purchase a feeling of worth that comparison itself can never truly provide.
Which really highlights that the self is fundamentally social, isn't it? It's not some private island where we calculate our worth in total isolation. We actually need other people to even know who we are.
We absolutely do. David Hume famously described the mind as nothing but a kind of theater where several perceptions successively make their appearance. We need the eyes of others, the social mirror, if you like to check our behavior, to hold us accountable and, yeah, to truly know ourselves.
It's that essential feedback loop. Like, having a friend who's brave enough to tell you your breath stinks, even if you can't smell it yourself. We rely on that external world to complete the picture of ourselves.
And when you reject that social mirror completely, you can end up with some really fascinating moral blind spots. Think of that anecdote Blackburn shares about Darwin's son, Uncle William.
Oh, right.
He was apparently so profoundly self-ignoring that during his own grandfather's state funeral, he absent-mindedly put his black glove on his bald head.
Oh, dear.
Now, while that level of self-forgetfulness can sometimes seem charming, eccentric, the book argues that an absolute lack of self-consciousness can often be a sign of, well, moral defects, or just a complete disregard for others' perceptions and the basic requirements of social life. To be a functioning moral agent, you actually have to care, at least somewhat, about the expectations and perceptions of the community you're in.
So, okay, bringing this all together for us today, how do we find that true, robust, sustaining self-regard? How do we avoid becoming either Narcissus, just chasing a reflection, or that arrogant leader who insulates himself completely from reality?
I think the key insight is recognizing that the self isn't some fixed monument we build and then admire. It's a constant project. It's a process. And genuine self-respect, the kind that lasts, has to be rooted in something real. Achieving worthy goals, yes, but also adhering to internal moral principles.
Like Kant's idea.
Exactly, like Kant's idea of the moral law. The notion that true self-respect is only really possible when you treat others, and indeed yourself, not just as a means to an end, but as valuable ends in themselves. It demands a kind of radical respect for equality.
So the takeaway message is something like, reject that exhausting treadmill of amour propre, the one that seeks superiority through constant comparison.
Yeah.
Don't be that fragile ego that needs to deny reality just to feel special.
Yeah.
Instead, maybe embrace the idea that your real worth is tied not to your isolation, but to your honest connection with others.
I think that's it. True fulfillment, the book strongly suggests, only comes when we can recognize the unique, profound worth in ourselves and, crucially, see that same unique worth in everyone else, equally.
We'll leave you with those powerful lines that actually opened Blackburn's exploration from the poet Thomas Traherne. You never enjoy the world aright till the sea itself floweth in your veins. Esteem yourself to be the sole heir of the whole world, and everyone is yourself to be the sole heir of the whole world.
Something truly powerful to consider there. Perhaps the unique worth in you is inseparable from the unique worth in everyone.